YouTube.
Yo, what's going on? Ben Ryan Chase back in my virtual hangout of my office because Ben decided to have a sick day, but we missed last week because of the Phillies Mets. We were all really too invested in that. Chase and I a little too much. Definitely could have done the show last week, but we had to hop on again this week. Episode 80,003 or something along those lines, but have a full show today. We're going to talk MLB, bringing back our Rapid Ryan segment. Always go way too long without doing one of those. So Chase and Ben aren't even ready for this. Chase is going to then touch on NFL, college football, and NASCAR, run through all those three as well. But obviously a big base on the MLB playoffs because we're cruising by. But how you guys doing today?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Excited to talk to you guys. It's been a minute. Time to catch up on all the good stuff.
Yeah, I was not on for 2 weeks with last week, and then you guys did it before. So it's been a minute. Not feeling great, but I'm excited to at least do the podcast. This is episode 83. It was 81 when the Cowboys and Ravens faced, and then you guys did it. So this is episode 83, I believe.
Yeah, I like it. Well, Ben, you got the hair flowing, you got the 17 jackets on, but we appreciate you showing up today. Got the nice background, the balls in the case, something fun to look at behind you. So, yeah. We're pumped.
We got a dead Venus flytrap back there too.
What's that?
A dead Venus flytrap. Yeah.
Okay, I respect it. Yeah. I would rather it being alive, but it happens.
Yeah. Same.
But anyways, let's dive right into the MLB playoffs. I don't know about you guys, but my instincts right now that I just want to quickly spew is just how fast these playoffs go. I guess I'm just used to the NBA, even the NHL playoffs, the NFL with the 2-week gap before the Super Bowl. All of that feels a lot longer than baseball since they're playing every day. The series, they're not all best of 7, so they go pretty quick over in less than a week, but it's flying by. We're already into the NLCS, ALCS, and before you know it, the season's going to be over.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And just to top on that point real fast, it's weird because in the Phillies-Mets series, in my head, I just felt like it had to be 3 games. And obviously, I know it was 5 games, but there was just so much pressure. And like you said, because of how quick they were moving, it felt like it had to be a 3-game series no matter what. I was like, that's crazy. And then even now, this series, like you said, the championship series, same thing, flying by. But these teams, and it's been even too. It hasn't been somebody just full-on sweep. It's always been a little bit tied or going back and forth. So I feel like they've been delivering.
Yeah, and it probably felt slow, really fast for you guys because you got the bye, and then you just had, within 5-6 days it was over. Whereas for me, it has not felt quick. But I definitely understand, with just having that bye and then just waiting around to see part of the flaw with the new system, but it's never going to be perfect the way however you do it. But.
Yeah. Well, essentially, Ben, too, you had the week leading up as well. You had the extra week, the Brewers series, the Braves series. I feel like that all kind of lumped in as playoffs for you. And it is a little different than the 1-game wild card and it happens and you lose and it's over. But I don't know. I feel like the NBA playoffs, it feels like 2 months. Yeah. Every series takes at least 2 weeks to get through. And obviously the best of 7. So, and they don't play every day, right? But yeah, you're true to that. Man. We did wait around Chase and I for a week, but it's just crazy how fast it's going.
Yeah, and I'll touch on the Mets here a little bit. This probably is the craziest since I've been alive, the craziest 2 to 3 week stretch of Mets baseball I've ever experienced that I can remember. 2015 was pretty wild, but just the dramatics of this has just been crazy, and not even the home runs. Every game, last night, they won 7-3. But the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, the Mets put on at least 2 runners pretty much every inning to make it sketchy. It's been a roller coaster. But the home runs between Lindor, Alonso, it's been a wild run for them. And I haven't experienced the team is so resilient. I definitely didn't expect this. You know, they got hot at the right time and they're rolling with it. I mean, their starting pitching has been like you come into the season with signing all these guys to 1-year deals who are basically just old veterans coming off above 4 ERAs, and you don't expect to get to the playoffs and then let alone have those guys pitch the way they are. I mean, Minaya has become like an ace, and he had a 4.5 ERA last year with the Giants. Part of that is they talked about his arm slot changing, but it just, you know, it's wild to have Quintana as a starter in, you know, game 4 of the NLCS when, you know, he was, you know, barely a fifth rotation guy 2 years ago. Iglesias is starting every day, and he wasn't even in majors last year as a veteran. So it's been wild. They've kind of caught lightning in the bottle, and I'm just riding it out. Like at this point, obviously, I'm hoping for the chip. There's no way to not hope for that at this point and get this far and the way the team's playing. But I'm not going to be disappointed at this point, no matter where they end up.
Yeah, I feel like obviously from the Philly standpoint, it sucked and I hated it, but it is cool seeing a team that hot just go through, and it really doesn't even matter the opponent. Like I know the Dodgers were the next high up, you know, obviously the number 1 seed, but it doesn't even feel like that. It almost feels like the Mets are the number 1 seed and the Dodgers are the ones that are having to play up to that point. So that's what's really cool about the Mets situation. And like you said about the pitching, like it doesn't feel deep, but compared to everyone else that's in the playoffs, like I don't even know what the Guardians rotation's doing, but it doesn't seem like
they got
have
Alex,
a straight bullpen.
Well, they had like Alex Cobb starting game 2, and like just no one. The pitching it's weird this year. Like there's not, besides like Garrett Cole, there's not like a stud pitcher like ace that you really can name.
Yeah.
They had Jack Flaherty, the Dodgers game 1, but he was a trade deadline guy, and but to go back to like the Phillies Mets, I mean the craziest thing about that game is it was basically like 1-0, 2-0. It felt like for the first 6 innings, maybe 7, and just each team was hitting the bullpen, and neither bullpen was successful. I know Ryan, you wanted Wheeler to come in for game 4.
Oh yeah, big advocate of that.
Yeah. So, well, I guess from the Philly side of it too, you know, we mentioned it's disappointing, and I feel like it's even worse because Rob Thompson signed to an extension today. And
I was going to say that, yeah.
I hate that. I feel like that was a kick to my testicles right after a week after, still recovering. I'm not even fully recovered, and then they just come in and punch me in the back of the head with more Rob Thompson. Really disappointing, especially because the 3 years you've made it in, you've had better win-loss records, better situation, yet you haven't gone as far. You've regressed. And for me, that's a big red flag. This team plays like horse shit, and they don't seem to like care about anything else other than making it to the playoffs. But it just rubs me the wrong way because they celebrated so hard when they clinched. And it's like, that shouldn't even be a celebratory note. That should just be the standard for this team. You have 2 guys making $600 million. Obviously, you should be winning the division. And they go out there and put up a performance like that. It was like they were scared and being so aggressive. And I don't know what their approach is. It sucks. I've seen it for 3 straight postseasons. I don't know what else I need to see for them to change my mind, other than you just have to switch it up a little bit. Like, I don't think everyone has to go, but there definitely should have been a change made at this point. Just to put the boots on the ground that it's not acceptable. Like, you could have had the World Series, you could have went back, and then you should have this year, and you didn't do. You're 0 for 3. And I don't feel like that's warranting of an extension. I feel like for the team, players, you should be scared that you might not even be on the team next year just because you're not a fit. This team has not a great flow to it. I mean, it's all DHs and first basemen and guys who can't run, and then guys who can run that can't hit. So I don't know what kind of balance that is. And it was okay, but it's definitely time to retool it a little bit, reshake it up, and just come in with some new faces and maybe, I don't know, get back at it, because the Mets are only going to get better. I mean, this was great for them, regardless of how it goes. Obviously, you want it to be the best, but I feel like it's good foundation. It's just good for the team chemistry and good to build off of. And people are going to want to go play with the Mets again. like this offseason, I don't think there's a lot of premier guys that are going to be available, but even just depth guys are going to want to go there to solidify that team, and that's going to be hard to compete with.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously the Braves are going to be back too. So you can't count them out. But just a real quick touch on the Phillies too. My two main points, the only player I think that actually had a good series against the Mets was Zach Wheeler. And that's why I was so pissed that they didn't bring him back in for the second half of game 4. No,
Game 4.
yeah, 4. Game 4
Yeah,
at the
game
end
4.
there. Because I know they wanted to save him for game 5 to push it. Obviously, game 1, he was at a postseason high pitches. I wanted to low-key leave him in there, but it was game 1. I kind of understood, but he leaves, they lose the game, and then game 4, potential for him to come in there and basically secure the win in that game, in my opinion, because he's the only one that pitched well, and he was consistently good throughout the whole year. So besides that, across the board, straight shakiness through the bullpen, starting pitching. I mean, yeah, we didn't have Taijuan Walker go again. It didn't help. It didn't help at all. And the only other thing I'm like getting vibes of, Chase, is it's bringing back the post World Series year in 2008, where 2009 they get back to the World Series, then they lose, and then all of a sudden they're losing in the divisional series, and then all of a sudden they're not making the playoffs, and we're signing all these guys to big extensions and deals and extending the manager and this and the other thing, but we're regressing. And I know we talked about it with Sam a few months ago, the second time we had him on, where the championship window, it was like open a year or two ago, and it doesn't stay open long. And I don't know what the game plan is too, but I've seen enough. Like, I can only vouch for Kyle Schwarber being a leadoff guy for so long. I mean, at least he walked and his average was up this year, but they got to just figure something out, because like you said, the guys that can hit can't field or can't run. I mean, oh my goodness, just watching Alec Boehm and Nick Castellanos chug around those bases and just get thrown out and not be able to get to balls consistently. It's frustrating across the board. And I didn't want to touch on the Mets too much because I'm super salty about it still, but it is wild, Ben, the scrappiness. It seems like that's honestly the biggest recipe sometimes for success in MLB postseasons is you don't need the big time ace, the triple threat in your bullpen. It's just almost like the scrappiness, the willingness to keep playing. You can win by small ball, the big home run, obviously Lindor had in game 4 against the Phillies, but a bunch of different ways to win and a bunch of different people contributing to wins. Bryce Harper, average-wise, great series. But in situations where there was guys on base, 2 outs, he needed to hit it, get a single, get a double. Nope, not that time. And so credit to the Mets. Really saw about the Phillies, especially because the Braves kept making that excuse about the bye. And the Phillies were the only team not to advance with the bye this year.
Yeah, I know. Go figure. After we dump on it for all these years leading up to it, now the Phillies get it, and they don't do it. But, yeah, all really good points. I don't like the regression. This team's only going to keep getting older, too. I love Wheeler. He's pretty much the only person I'm fine with them keeping. Everyone else, I don't really even care what happens. And Trey Turner was a luxury signing, but paying that guy $300 million is completely ass at this moment. I'd rather be paying 5 guys for $300 million than just paying him.
Yeah, you needed like World Baseball Classic Turner to come back, and he was non-existent at the plate.
No, and he's shoddy at shortstop. I'm not even gonna say he's good. He is not good at shortstop.
I agree.
We're paying a $300 million somewhat okay shortstop.
Yeah, you can feel comfortable with the Harper signing. Just I feel like he can age fine and still be a pretty. Like he could perform well at an older age and still be a valuable asset to the team, especially his personality and just the way he can be like a leader. But Turner, like year 7, 8 of that contract could start being a little sus. And I think you guys kind of touched on that when you guys signed him. But
yeah, I mean, at the time it was the thing, and he's friends with Harper, so it's hard to say no. Yeah. But it's just like, man, I don't know. I kind of would have wished that we had Reese at some points during these games these last 2 years. That would have been nice. And obviously he was injured last year. And I know the Mets thing, that's not something you want to hear, but like that guy brought a lot of energy too. Yeah, that's not like like it would have been nice to have somebody in there that just, and he's streaky. I'm not going to forget that. I remember all the times he didn't hit home runs, but it felt like more often than not he would hit home runs. And talk about the guy for the Mets, Pete Alonso. I feel like in August you were talking about how he's playing his way out of New York. Flash forward a few weeks, and it's like, can this guy leave New York now? Do you want him to go? Like, what's the situation with Pete Alonso now?
Yeah, talk about one swing of the bat changing your whole perspective on a player. I mean, he like the last couple seasons, I mean, I would have to do like a deep dive, but like if you look at his home runs and everything, like watching the games and just following the Mets all year, it felt like none of his home runs were ever clutch. Like he never hit one in a big moment. He never did that. And I think most Mets fans would have been, as sad as it is to see someone who grows up in the organization leave, I think most Mets fans would have been like, well, he's asking for $200 million. I'm not going to sign him at that. But now he sent them to the NLDS, hit potentially, I would say a top 5 home run of all time in Mets history. That home run. It was just crazy. So I don't know. It really depends on if the Mets want to try to take a run on Juan Soto. Is really all it comes down to.
That's true. Yeah, I guess it is one or the other. But at the same time, it's definitely for the Mets, it feels like a bonus because it's like, well, we weren't maybe even planning on it, but now at least it's an option and it gives you the ability to, flush it out, and maybe you move some guys now to get more talent too. So, like, that's not always out of the question. Like, I feel like the position you guys in is just like, what a change from a year ago, from 6 months ago, from like 3 months ago to now. It's like, God damn, I can't even believe that actually happened.
Yeah, to paying Verlander, Scherzer, all these like guys like $40 million a year, and then to not have them not sign a lot of guys this year because they still had them on the books, and this was supposed to be like the rebuilding year because they didn't have that luxury. Just
yeah. And you didn't have Shenga until like now, and I'm like, God damn it! How was that possible?
That was a rough game one.
But the fact he made it back out there, like the fact he's at the point where you guys are like, oh, we can trot him back out here and see what happens. Like, we have that ability. Otherwise, it's been all right so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Jeff McNeil's back now with the team, so he could be someone off the bench. Nemo's got an injury, but we'll see how that goes. So.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like, just the change in the MLB in a season, what it can do. Half the people who made it last year didn't make it, or if they did, got out early. And, just people who didn't even make the playoffs this year are making a deep, deep run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Parody's been great. Love how much the regular season still matters, because that's a big point in the NBA nowadays. But regular season matters. All 162 games still matter, even with the extra playoff spot, and the parody's been great. So it makes it fun. I bashed on Ben for about 4.5 months through the summer of his woes with the Mets. So it's fun when any team can make a run at any point. So
never could have seen this coming. Not like this.
No, for sure. Well, we touched a lot on the Phillies and the Mets there. Obviously, there's the other side too. I don't know if you guys want to move on though to the Rapid Ryan segment. There's not much on the AL side going on besides Astros and O's losing. But if you want to jump into it, we can jump right into it.
Yeah, that's fine. We're more of an NL podcast anyway.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into it. What's up?
NL only podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's good, and it's always we have the content to back it up. So, and everyone, we're an East Coast podcast. We got a lot of Mets and Phillies fans listening. So, sorry to you Baltimore Orioles fans. There's not much to talk about anyway. You lost again. So,
yeah.
But we'll jump right into it. Everyone doesn't remember. I'm going to rattle off some questions. Cold turkey. Ben, Chase going to see how they can handle it. Not too much. Answering more of their instinct and what they think. So here we go. I got 5 questions total. Although Chase has already jumped the gun on one of them. I knew it was coming. So, but we'll start off. This is for either one of you, Rapid Ryan style. Will Devontae Adams to the Jets or Amari Cooper to the Bills benefit that team more moving forward? Big trade
Oh.
today for both of them. I'm assuming you guys both saw that. Devontae Adams is obviously the big one, the bigger player. The Jets need help. But the Amari Cooper to the Bills is, I think, can give it a run for its money.
Yeah, I honestly feel like Amari Cooper is the bigger move. I know Devontae and Aaron have history and are good friends off the field and everything. But it's not like the Jets are really lacking with weapons. So they're like using this Devontae Adams trade as kind of a jump start, hopefully. But I mean, Garrett Wilson's a wide receiver 1 on any team, pretty much. And Amari Cooper, I mean, after you lose Diggs, like Cooper's still a legit number 1 wide receiver in the league. I think he'll benefit from having Josh Allen as quarterback. I mean, he hasn't had a great quarterback in a while.
That's true. Or one that could throw it that deep accurately. Yeah, I kind of feel like Devontae might have it just production-wise. I feel like he's going to have more output, but I feel like, Cooper's going to make a bigger impact on his team because he's just so many levels ahead of everyone else on that team at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
But I feel like in turn, he's going to get doubled a lot more now.
True. Well, yeah, one thing's for certain. I think both fantasy managers of both of those players will be excited moving forward. But I respect the Cooper answer. All right, next question. Chase, you already jumped the gun. We don't even have to touch on this. You can just say skip if you want. I said, how do you feel about Rob Thompson being extended through 2026? I'm pretty sure we already got the scoop of that answer. I know that they're bringing back their entire coaching staff for next year, too, to try to bring some stability. But the Rob Thompson thing alone, I know itched at you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been this upset at a coach since Doc Rivers. John Harbaugh's in a different category. It's nuclear with him. But, I mean, this is just – I want to mail dog poop to his house and set the bag on fire. Mad at Rob Thompson. I mean, it's just 3 years you've cooked my fall. I mean, I don't know what else I can say other than you don't got it, buddy.
Yeah. All right, Ben, this one's for you. Switching back gears to the Jets again. Are they Jets giving Aaron Rodgers too much power? I know it's desperate time. I know he's old, but it's given a little bit of like a LeBron in LA type of feel.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's starting to, get over the hill a little bit. I mean, ultimately, you got to win games on the field, and they're not doing that. All this talk is great. All these signings are great, but you gotta win these games. Like they have been in a lot of these games, and it's been Rodgers who has thrown an interception on the last drive, and with the Vikings game, with this game on Monday night. So, I mean, I think to answer your question, I think they're doing a lot for Rodgers, who's probably going to be there 2 more years max. Like how many more years does he realistically have in the NFL? Because he can make plenty of money going on Pat McAfee every week.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. All right, Chase. NHL season just started. I know you're excited for it. Obviously, the NBA season starts next week, just around the corner. Straight up, will the Flyers or the 76ers have a more successful season for what their expectations are?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with the Sixers. That's only just because I feel like you can go a lot further having 2 really good players and having 3 excellent players. Hopefully Paul George can stay healthy. But the Flyers, we haven't touched on them a lot. Season just started. Playoffs going to be tough. This team, we've seen it with Tortorella. He runs them into the ground, which on the flip side means they're going to be a wagon to start the season. So if you're looking to cash on some money, don't count out the Flyers because they could be stealing some of these games early in the season just because of purely their conditioning. I think they're going to be a lot quicker, a lot more on their toes. They have 2 17-year-olds who made the team, 18 actually, between Michkov and their first-round pick this year, Jet Luchenko. So a lot of speed coming out, guys who might be able to kick it in. Game in Vancouver, first game of the night, weren't even favored. Pretty heavy underdogs come out and get the win. So that was big. Then they go and get dumped on in Calgary. But, hey, they're back against McDavid tonight. You never know. They could shut him down. McDavid doesn't – I don't think he has a goal yet this year. Maybe he does. But if he does, it's only one. So put him in a position.
Is he the Tom Thibodeau of the NHL?
He might be. He actually might be. I think he has the hardest conditioning test for the players in to make the regular season roster. I think it's probably the hardest one. But they skate like no tomorrow to start they're gonna be skating like they're on fire these first 2 months. And it's just right when we get to the end of December, January, another West Coast trip maybe, then they start getting heavy, injuries pile up, and then we're back in the same position where they're probably gonna be selling off at the deadline. But
Classic.
yeah. So I think the Flyers, maybe next year, but definitely the Sixers for this season. Yeah.
All right. See, it seems like a little bit of hope for both, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry not to extend this much farther, but just a quick, are the Islanders projected to make the playoffs?
Oh, I actually don't know, but I haven't heard a lot going on with the Islanders, to be completely honest.
Just curious.
Yeah,
I figured I have no clue. So okay,
well, but I would imagine they got a decent shot. I mean, you never know. Hockey is that weird sport where, yeah.
Well,
it works.
This last question, one more question to wrap it up. It shouldn't take more than 2 seconds before Ben comes through the screen at me. Ben, this one's for you. Will the Mets win the World Series?
Oh, I hate this question. Hate it. I'm gonna say yes.
You don't have to answer. I don't know if you're superstitious. I'm not gonna put you on the spot to answer. I just at least wanted to get you on your toes a little bit with it.
I'm hopeful. Going to game 4, as long as I'm not still rocking this 102 fever, and even if I am, we'll see. 8:00 game, probably get home at 4:00 in the morning. Still got to work the next day, but see how it goes. I'm hoping they win because I think the Dodgers are a harder matchup than either the Guardians or the Yankees, personally. So anything can happen in the World Series. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything the rest of the year, but I'm hopeful. I'm gonna say yes because you don't get these chances very often. So
there it was. That's what we've been pulling out all year, man. I love it. And as salty as I am, I'm hoping they stay competitive for you. But that's a wrap on Rapper Ryan.
That was good. Appreciate it, Ryan.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll move on here. We'll touch on some NFL updates. I don't have much because I've been honestly immersed in all the Mets games. So I didn't even watch the Jets game last night, but you guys can touch on, I know, different results for your guys' teams, different ways you guys are trending. So
yeah, Ryan, do you want to go first?
I don't have much to say. Honestly, as a new Cowboys fan, that was the worst game I've ever watched. Honestly, just across the board, it's just an NFL football game you hate to see. This trend of them getting blown out at home and not being able to stop anyone is just awful. I get it. They were missing guys on defense. I don't know. The offense, it feels beyond vanilla at this point. I don't know what kind of West Coast play calling Mike McCarthy's doing, but it's an awful job. I don't know. I know Saleh was a really early canning, and I know that Mike McCarthy's not going to get canned. I think he's going to go throughout the season, but at this point, just talking, seeing and reading about the Cowboys, I'm a believer. It's not a Dak problem. I was just disgusted. Honestly, I was just so disgusted with that game. I remember getting up to crack a sad beer in the third quarter. Oh. And I was like, I have to sit here for 15 more minutes. And that's the extent. I don't know what's going on. It needs to stop. Luckily, the Eagles are also not playing great. So the NFC East and the wild card spots should be open if they can get to 10, 11 wins, but doesn't look good.
Yeah, do you feel like you guys really need a running back? It feels like that's a big piece in the offense that's missing.
Yeah, I feel like the bigger piece missing, and maybe it's because Chase and I always lean defense, but linebacker. I mean, they have Leo Fowl, Eric Kendricks, who didn't even play Sunday, but it's just a bunch of guys that aren't even when they have Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and Deron Bland back, and even that Chris Carson cornerback who's played decent when he's been out there, even they get all these guys on the field, they still can't stop the running because they don't have those hardcore linebackers that can plug the holes. But yeah, for sure, running back. Every week I watch Derrick Henry, and I literally shed a tear saying that I wish that we could have signed him. Chase, great for you, terrible for us.
So affordable too.
Oh yeah.
Yep. It's ridiculous. I mean, what was the comp? The Trey Lance is making as much.
Yeah, he's making $5 million, and Derek's only making $6 this year.
So,
yeah.
They got Dalvin Cook down there in the practice squad. I don't know what he's doing. He's chilling. Might be time to bring him up and see what he's got going. But yeah,
it looks rough. I can definitely feel for you. I'm definitely not envious of that position, but on the flip side, didn't really get to see much of the Ravens game against the Commanders. I had to live through highlights just because of location. Didn't have the access, but happy with the result. But John Harbaugh always does dominate rookie quarterbacks. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just a defensive scheme or the way he just game plans for it, but I got to give him credit. He handles business against rookies. So props to Harbaugh. That was really hard to say, but yeah, he gets it done in that respect. But I think the train keeps rolling. Again, kind of meaningless because it was an NFC game. So if you're going to lose, it should have been this one, but they don't ever do that. Lamar's destroyed NFC opponents. So if we ever do make it somehow to the Super Bowl, I know for a fact he's going to unpants that NFC team. Doesn't matter who it is, where it is, what time it is, but it's just the AFC teams. We can't really get past the hump. I don't know what it is, but the second he gets to an NFC team, man, he starts licking his chops. So I'm happy with it. Don't really have much to complain about other than I just want the defense to really continue to grow. They haven't really been shut out. And the turnovers need to come a little bit more in bunches too. And they have all the players to do it. I think what more Wiggins plays, I think he'll turn into that too. I think he'll just be an actual playmaker in general because of his speed and his positioning. So, and his willingness to tackle. I wasn't sure about that going into the season, but he's put his head in there a few times, maybe a little bit recklessly, but got to give him for that. So hopefully we build on this, keep going. Still going to be rooting for them to fire Harbaugh, whatever happens at the end of the season. We'll see where it goes, but hopefully positive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the extent I had. There wasn't much else crazy going on over the weekend. I did a real quick spot check right before the show, just after another great game for Derrick Henry. Currently 16th in the MVP odds, like plus 6,000. So 15 QBs ahead of him. Not too surprising.
Like first every rushing category, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep, and he's 16th to win MVP.
You'll never be able to tell from those stupid MVP rankings. Who's the first person ahead of him?
I forget. It was like there was a bunch of it was a mess. It was a mess.
Mahomes was probably in there.
Yeah, Mahomes sucks.
Yeah. Half of the NFL team's QBs are ahead of Derrick Henry. It's ridiculous.
Tua might be ahead of him. He only played in 2 games.
Oh my goodness.
That's true. Rodgers might be ahead of him, and he's been awful.
Yeah, I think he was. Yep. So, but
ridiculous.
Chase, if you didn't have anything else, we can switch gears because I also wanted to talk Penn State too, from what felt like their biggest win in recent history, especially with some of these high-paced, very competitive Pac-12 teams coming in. I saw they were down 14-3 early, and honestly, I was scared. I was scared going into it, and I thought it was over. I thought they were going to lose. And the resilience in this team that we have not seen in recent years, especially against teams like Ohio State, Michigan, they showed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. This is a game that I think past years, James Franklin bungles it. I don't think he comes back. It was 20-6 at halftime, I think. I checked in right at the third quarter. I didn't give up hope. I thought they could make it close. I mean, USC is good, but they're not, a top 5 team by any means. So the fact they come out there, and got to give it to Tyler Warren, dude. This guy, if you thought Brock Bowers was a good tight end, Tyler Warren takes snaps from the backfield, snaps the ball, catches it, runs with it, literally does everything a human they took Travis Kelce and then just doubled him in the lab, and this is Tyler Warren. I mean, it's
18
absolutely
catches.
insane. Yeah, and the end zone catch that he had to start off the second half to really mount the comeback was that moment. I mean, absurd, catches the ball behind the defender and makes the play happen. That's the last time I saw somebody like this at Penn State that just made ridiculous jaw-dropping plays every single week was Saquon Barkley. And that's crazy that it was a running back, and we're talking about a tight end now. But he does it all. Like, you can't count him out in any situation, no matter what it is. If he's in the backfield, if he's lined up outside, he dominates. And it really also just feeds into the fact they have two workhorse running backs. Nick Singleton, we saw him in action against the Illinois game, destroys a guy at the line of scrimmage. I mean, took his soul and then caught a pass and ran it down. That should be a highlight for the season. That's basically encapsulated his entire season right there. I mean, he's taking people's souls and just racking up the stats.
Yeah, it's super exciting. They go to Wisconsin next week. Should be a win. And then obviously the big game will be at home against Ohio State. Good year to have Ohio State at home. I mean, either way, at this point, you would think at most they take one loss. They should be in the top 12. They should be in the playoffs. And I'm just excited about that. So, but I don't know, the resilience, like you said, they were down 14-3. They were down 26 at half. Obviously, you know the team better than any of us, and you believed in them. And that shows something because, you know, James Franklin tends to choke in these big-time moments sometimes. So it was exciting to see.
And I really got to give props to Andy Kotelnicki, their offensive coordinator. Obviously, coming from Kansas, didn't really know a whole lot about him. I figured this was just another random James Franklin hire. Probably going to be BS, not know how to use the tight ends, not be able to just flush out a good game plan. This guy's totally exceeded my expectations. It may have started a little bit slow, but each week I feel like it's getting stronger, more defined, and these guys really believe in it. And like I said, with Barkley being the last time, it was just somebody that really jumped off my eyes. That was the last time they had a really good play caller, too. That was Joe Moorhead, and he took that team to another level. And I think that Andy Kotelnicki has that ability right now to elevate Penn State, especially in a big game like Ohio State. And it really means a lot now that Ohio State has a loss, so we can go in there and give them the knockout punch and really cement ourselves with a playoff position. There's 12 teams. We can both still make it, maybe even 3 teams from the Big Ten. But, you know, I know you said about one loss, but, man, I really want to go for undefeated. I mean, James Franklin needs it. He needs this more than anything. And, you know, it was nice to see a team not die on me for once in like the last week from being down and getting punched in the face. It was nice that Penn State was got up there, pulled their pants up, and punched right back and got back in it. So,
yeah, for sure. But anything else, Chase, you wanted to touch on before we move on in the college football world? I know there was a lot of other action that's been happening. We haven't touched on them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been really good. The Tulane boys having some off weeks, but they've been still kicking at it. Hawaii, not so much, a little bit of a dip in the action. But two other places I want to bring up. Ashton Jonty, if you haven't seen him. We talked about Derrick Henry not being up for MVP votes, but in college football, they got their head on a little bit straighter, and sometimes a running back, a skill position guy can win the Heisman. Ashton Jonty is doing that, everything he can. Basically, all the running backs in the last 10, 15 years, I think they categorized it, that won a Heisman through this amount of weeks. You take those numbers, Ashton Jonty doubled all those numbers, all of them, not even close. I mean, it's ridiculous statistics he's putting up, and he's doing it at Boise. He's not doing it at Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, all these places that have had these guys win the Heisman over the last 10 years. So got to give him props. This guy deserves it more than anything. He's an absolute animal. Goes in beat style, doesn't even play the fourth quarter sometimes. They just manage him because he already has the numbers through one game. He puts up the numbers you would have through 3. So his production's off the charts. I also want to talk, let's look at this. 126, 12. One season of action, that's most people. Ashton Jonty, not even halfway through the season, put up those numbers. I mean, that's ridiculous. He could be over 2,000 yards, maybe even 30 to 40 touchdowns if he's on this pace. That's ridiculous. And it's all propelling Boise State. Boise State also just went and handed Ashton Jonty was running all over our Hawaii boys, so we felt that pretty hard. Pretty hard sting from a big guy like that. But career production wise, he's just been off the charts. So it's been really fun to watch him, really get to see that action. He stands straight up. He looks like a murderer in the backfield. It is a scary thing. But hey, maybe if the decks fall right, Dallas Cowboys feeling that running back need, slipping Ashton Jeanty card in the draft. Man, that would be nice.
That'd be so
That'd be really nice. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, he's got it. So I'm hoping he runs away with it. The quarterbacks have been playing good, but I feel like he's just statistics wise, and if that's what they're gonna go off of, I feel like if he's really pushed the difference and he's giving Boise State a real chance to make it to the 12-team playoff. So it's a cool story altogether there. Another team I've watched, I haven't really brought them up, and they've been a team I've liked to play with. They've been fun, but they've had some big wins so far. Arizona State, they've been cooking. Their running back, Scatabo, top 10 name in the game right now. I got to give it to them, but they're just fun. They're doing it out there. No one really expects them because they're just kind of lurking in the Big 12. And also in the Big 12, you got the BYU Cougars, undefeated. I wouldn't have expected that. I feel like that's really insane, but they're out there doing it. And there's a few other undefeated teams that you probably wouldn't have expected. Pitt, another undefeated team. I wouldn't have guessed that, but they come in, had some really gritty wins. There's been other ones that have risen to the occasion. And the last two I want to bring up is Army and Navy. You always think about that game, and it's like, wow, they're going to pass for maybe 6 yards, maybe even negative. Have a negative passing game, and it's just going to be straight handoffs. Not this year. Both undefeated, going to be playing each other, obviously Army-Navy week, but could also be playing themselves again the following week for the conference championship because they're both undefeated, both leading the AAC. So I feel like that's a really big moment for college football, that two service academy programs. Obviously, you have to fulfill your commitment going to those programs. So it's not only football, but it's also giving yourself the opportunity to give back to your country on top of that. It means a lot. And a couple of local guys from Navy, I think Mount Lebanon area, a couple guys out from out that way putting in work. So it's been fun to watch those guys on Saturday, put it up there and represent this country proud and, put a lot of game, especially in college football. So.
Yeah, I like it. And we can switch gears. College football, I mean, it's crazy. The season's already halfway over. Another one. I know the baseball playoffs is coming and going a lot quicker, but it's exciting, Chase. And it has been great parity too. And a lot of, expectations not met, but certain teams very much exceeding those as well, which makes it fun. But to wrap up our show, as we have been doing majority of the weeks throughout the last 6 months, Chase, we're still trucking. NASCAR is getting near the end, right? And you want to give us a recap and, kind of an update of where we're at?
Yeah. So last weekend we went back to Charlotte. However, we went to the Roval course, half road, half oval, a little bit of a hybrid mix. So it gives everyone a good chance, especially if you're not just a straight up road course racer. But Kyle Larson went in there, dominated. Didn't even really matter. He basically went from wire to wire, got the win, so obviously locked himself in. Our guy, Christopher Bell, locked himself in as well and got himself a second place finish. So still strong, hasn't dipped at all. This weekend, we're going to Vegas. Great track for Kyle Larson, great track for a lot of these top 5 guys in the playoffs. Christopher Bell, average finish around 20th, although he's qualified and practiced really well there. So hopefully he can right the wrongs this year. Obviously, he's going in with a lot more momentum than he ever has in his career into this track. So I think the thing that helps too is Las Vegas was sometimes the closing track, and this year it's a little bit higher in the playoff seating. So get it out of the way, especially for Christopher Bell. Moving on. They did make the cuts this week, so now it's just the top 8 are remaining. The guys who didn't make it, you pretty much expected. Alex Bowman did get disqualified because of a post-race inspection. So otherwise, he probably would have made it. I would have guessed, but hey, the guys who didn't make it, you pretty much know their name. Pretty much didn't even think they were going to be making it this far anyway. So, the guys who are really in it are going to be doing it this weekend at Las Vegas.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Just looking at our picks spreadsheet right now, like 6 to 8 months ago, Chase put that plus 900 Christopher Bell to win. He's consistently hovering in that 2 to 4 range. Can he just get over the Kyle Larson hump?
Yeah.
We'll Yeah, this week will be a big test, I think, like you said, especially in Vegas where he hasn't been super hot, especially as much as racers like Larson. So
Yeah, and I will say, even though Kyle Larson has been number one in points, basically doing it on a shorter schedule than everyone else, he has been caught up in a lot of accidents, and not because he's just been aggressive, but just his timing this year just has come back to bite him for whatever reason. Same with a guy like Denny Hamlin. So it could just be the fact he's dominating, gets caught up in traffic. It's happened a lot this year. Basically, the races that he didn't really finish in the top 10 was because he didn't finish at all. It was just an accident. So definitely something to watch out. And if that does happen, Christopher Bell is in a great position, being number 2 in the points, number 2 in the odds, number 2 in the standings, to just capitalize on that spot and really try to log it down. But man, Kyle Larson is just a machine. This whole season, it's crazy.
Larson has a championship win already, right?
Yeah. I think he's just one time. I don't think he has 2.
Yeah, I think he just has 1 as well. But in recent years, the dominance is there for sure. But no, appreciate the updates. Everyone who's toughened through, once football starts, baseball playoffs. It's a crazy time of year for sports. We always say it. We always say it is. October is nutty, but you can't forget about NASCAR at this time either. So give it a check-in at least on Sunday at the minimum, and maybe we'll be surprised on how Bell comes out.
Yeah, gotta love it.
Yep. But all right, boys. Well, unless you had anything else to wrap up, I think it was a really good one. I know Ben, and it's an off day currently. Everyone watching now, it's 1-1. The time this podcast airs, we'll see where the Mets are at. But it's an exciting time for sports. I think we got through a lot in a very short amount of time, and it was a lot of fun. So we'll have to get back at it next week, Tuesday at 7:30. But for now, Ben, Ryan, Chase, on After Further Review are out. See you next week.
See ya.